backup. Otherwise,
Right.
it would make
Yeah.
no sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
I would recommend that too, because otherwise, all your all the effort that you put in, it'll seem like it's gone to waste. But obviously, it's such like I'm getting excited just hearing about it.
yeah, the feedback cycle becomes really strong when the pull
Yeah.
run is there. So you can quickly get the feedback. Yes.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. This is wonderful. Like these are some very strong innovations that you guys have created. It's a solid product, and as somebody, I'm personally obviously I'm friends with you, and I have utilized the platform as well. But this has not come from a place of bias. I think you're one of the more solid founders that I have seen, because you know your fundamentals, right? Which is very, very important. So whatever you guys are building, I'm always excited to try it out.
Yeah, we are very excited to actually put up this product out on the
Hmm.
mainnet beta. We are going to again stress test the product from the infrastructure side, because we really want to create a world-class fintech product from India. I mean
Right.
India as in engineering talent,
Hmm.
not from the geography. I mean, so the
Yeah.
engineering talent is definitely Indian. So, and that engineering talent, I'm very much bullish on that. There is a famous saying like we are bullish on the Indians. So yes, so I think we are just trying to minimize the surprises that people can have. That's why
Right.
stress testing is happening,
Right.
and
It's very, very
lot
important
of
because this is to do
yeah,
with
a lot of
right. Yeah.
absolutely, because we understand that the audience is global, and we
Hmm.
want to give them the experience. So version one would be a bit clunky. I know there will be like a lot of edge cases, rough edges. But I think what we are trying to do with the stress testing is just to test the infrastructure right and
Right.
making sure that the numbers are correct. So rest of the thing will be, I think, can be managed. So that's where we are focusing really, really heavily.
Wow. This is super exciting. You've mentioned blue chip NFTs multiple times in this conversations. And could you,
Mhm.
perhaps for our listeners, explain what are blue chip NFTs and how does your platform leverages them in its vision to make this entire ecosystem more accessible?
Sure. So as we understand, the word blue chip actually comes from the stocks.
Right.
So
Yeah.
whichever has tested through the times, generally we call them blue chip.
Hmm.
So similarly, we thought back in 2022, like what exactly are we going to offer when it comes to NFTFN product? So we created a standard that okay, there are these 6, 7 filters, whichever product pass through these 6 or 7 filters will eventually become a blue chip. And now, what are those 6, 7 filters? Like the project should be at least a year and a half old. The project should have minimum 500 ETH of worth of liquidity happening in the last 30 days. And there are certain things that we took our help of the partners to actually check the wash trading index, how much wash traded a project is. That's why if anybody who will visit today, they'll find it surprising that we have not kept cyberpunk, CryptoPunk in this thing.
Hmm.
Reason being because CryptoPunk was at the time when we checked 2 years back, it was very, very, I mean, the most wash traded product was in the NFT ecosystem was CryptoPunk. As
Right.
per our partners index, now that partner is essentially is like now very much reputed. So they are doing what they knew what they're doing, and we are very much happy to actually take their help. So blue chip is something which will not, like, the team is really, really good, known, doxed, and we know that what the team has done in the past. Plus the project is actually doing really good volume. More than 3,000 wallets, 4,000 wallet has to hold the NFT project, so that sufficiently project is distributed. It doesn't have the concentration of, let's say, 10% of the NFT is just in the one wallet. So we make sure from the distribution side as well as the community side, because and yes, community has to be active. So Discord should have some chatter. There has to be minimum number of amount of people should be in the Discord. So these
Hmm.
are 6, 7 I would say checks that we implemented, and we passed through all the projects from them. That's how we came up with these 4, 5 projects, and we created an index out of it. So today we are offering an index, not an individual project, but sooner in the journey we will provide individual projects as well. The
Okay.
risk management of single project is very, very difficult. That's why we are starting with index first, so
Right.
that we can learn from the market, and then we can move to the single project.
Right. Absolutely. It's easier to basically minimize the risk there at least or mitigate it in some way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is excellent. And this is, the more you're talking about it, the more I think that NFTFN is like it should be the go-to place for, users who are just starting their NFT journey, because you guys are trying to create tools around, NFTs and investing and stuff that perhaps, not just seasoned investors can use, but just folks who are just starting off in their journey can also utilize. Is there
Yes.
any one tool on your platform that you would recommend, say, to a seasoned investor and one to a new user to try out?
So for now, we have just one ICP right now, which we are catering to. So that's
Hmm.
why the index is created rather than the individual projects, because individual projects will actually appeal to the traders who love
Right,
risky assets.
right,
So
yeah,
right now we are starting it with very slow guarded launch, and that too with one single ICP, like people who love to expose themselves into the NFT ecosystem in an easier way, and
right,
that too with the very less kind of I would say security risk as well as capital risk. So currently everybody would just see one product right now, Supernova. Supernova is an index. We have
hmm,
named the product as Supernova, so it's
okay,
easier to for the communication as well. And Supernova is an assorted bucket of five blue chip NFT: BAYC, MAYC, Azuki, Doodles, and Clonex. Moonbirds was there. We removed Moonbirds because of our we removed it because of some sort of, let's say, the volume, because of the volume was drying up in that. And
right, right,
Moonbird recently, and those decision again can be again mapped to the recent problem. Moonbird actually is going down. It went to less than one ETH right now.
yeah,
I mean,
right,
that was
right.
very very sad to know, because Moonbird was very good project back then. Yeah.
Right. So as of now, a user can, come onto your platform and use the index that you have created to start investing in NFTs. And in the coming future, you guys are launching a bunch of other products that you've already mentioned for perhaps the seasoned investor.
Yes. So currently, we are offering a leverage market so people can actually go long and short. We
Hmm.
will bring investable products as well, so
Hmm.
that people can actually just do a DCA into an index, which is actually going to give them the exposure into the most hardest blue chip assets out there in the
Right.
NFT ecosystem. So investable product will come later. Right now, it is like more of a speculative one. Uh, so speculative first, investable second. That's how we are going.
Okay, cool. That is a good way to perhaps capture the market as well. So more power to you guys. Now, just zooming out a little bit, you have like over 9 years of experience in the blockchain domain. What kind of major shifts or trends have you observed, and how have they influenced your approach to creating solutions?
So there are few things. I think one that is definitely now picking up heat is the privacy.
Hmm.
Privacy in 2016, 15, 14, back then when Zcash was like I would say invented. So it had that ceremony where it was like burning up all the so electronically, there used to be some footprints to make the Zcash run. So if it will not discard it properly, those digital footprints, so it can always have some gap, and people can always trace back to the. So it is called a ceremony. So I would say Monero, Zcash, there was this ideology that privacy will be super important. So it was built on top of, let's say, Bitcoin blockchain. I mean, as an inspiration, but that died down in the last 3 4 years, but now it is coming back up because of the FHE, fully homomorphic encryption. So fully homomorphic encryption actually allows you to search and look for the data within the encrypted state of the data, so
Hmm.
that it can somehow just give you it's like a ZK stuff.
Right.
So ZK is another. So ZK on top of FHE is very crazy combination. I don't know the maths. I just know the theory part of it, because I can only keep on top of these things. In Web3, it's super hard to actually, because the offshoots are so many. When it comes to the Web3, it's exploding. It's really hard. I mean, to keep tap on everything. But I
Right.
think
Right.
privacy in general, one, and ZK and FHE comes under them. The second is definitely perpetual dexes is making some comeback. I mean, the DYDX is leading there, but I think the centralized platforms blow up. And in general, the centralized platforms are mostly used for the futures in the crypto space. So decentralized alternatives to them is becoming the second most demanded need. So for crypto and in cryptocurrencies, perpetual DEX is the second most, I would say, the need of the RS. That's why if you see the first DApp now on any Solana, Injective, they all want to offer the perpetual on top of crypto, right? So
Right.
that's where we think that we also fit in, because we are also perpetual DEX, but that too for the NFTs. So that's the second. And other thing, I think the centralized player in terms of social network,
Hmm.
like the way Twitter is gaining a lot of strength. So generally, what I have seen is this: the amount of power a centralized platform hold, the more demanded its decentralized version is.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Lens, Farcaster, and Deso, and there are other platforms like upcoming Socially.
Yeah.
These platforms are trying to actually create a digital alternative, decentralized alternative to these centralized Goliaths. So I
Right.
think that would be required in the future, like really, really. I mean, these kind of requirements come suddenly. The way DeFi actually hit the market suddenly,
Right.
the requirement for a decentralized alternatives for these kind of platform will hit suddenly, and then you will have to have those products. You cannot go back in the kitchen and like try to understand the recipe and then try to come up with a solution 2 years later. There
Yeah.
has to be some people who should be working on all these things from some time. So the requirement, the moment the requirement hits, there is some solution that is ready to serve the market. So I
Absolutely.
think
Yeah, this would be like
privacy.
gradually and then all of a sudden, all at once, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. This is the same feeling I personally feel. So I think I can think about all like on these of the on top of these things, and the other one would be I think what decentralized distributed hosting. I think what it is doing in the space, so that if
Right.
we can actually make the hosting of all these platform in such a way that the distribution is also decentralized.
Right. So
So if we
deepen
have if
basically products that are
Yes,
coming.
deep in.
Yeah.
Correct. So the deep in as an industry is also gonna make a lot of sense.
Right.
I mean, we are actually going in the gradual space right now. All of it would immediately become so much valuable, because suddenly people will require, and billions of people will require it, because of the ETF. A lot of people are now researching about cryptocurrency, and
Yeah.
soon they will understand the underlying technology. They will start looking up and questioning things. What can be the alternative version for this one? So let's try to search all of these things. So I think we next 2 years should give us some sort of peek into all these, I would say, uh, hot narratives, but I
Right.
think the narratives which cut across the genuine curiosity of the user and utility of the user would definitely see some traction.
Absolutely. I think you're right. You've picked up all the relatively hot notions here right now in the Web3 space, and they are sure to stand the test of time, at least for the next cycle, definitely. And with the right utility, I think good platforms will always survive, because builders will survive on the basis of the users using their platform like any other
Mm-hmm.
user. And if you're building something that is actually solving a problem, then you would be
Yes.
able to, if you market it well, then yeah, you would be able to survive these barren conditions.
Founders have to understand the value of the marketing. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. It's very, very important. I think there are a lot of people who build like wonderful products and they're just not able to market it well, and then
Yeah.
kind of don't work out, and it's very unfortunate. But yeah, selling is something that all founders should learn. You mentioned
Oh,
the
absolutely.
Bitcoin ETF. Now, I would love
Yeah.
to know what is your take on the Bitcoin ETF being approved by the SEC. How do you see this development, affecting the market and the industry as a whole?
I think it's the needle that we were all looking for
Yeah.
to put up into the balloon of fiat world.
Mm.
So what I personally feel that the shift will be again gradual, now that it has entered in the day zero phase of the industrial, I would say, sorry, institutional capital. So at day zero, the institutions, they are sitting up with lots of cash. they would love to do some sort of a DCA, and their DCA amount would be really, really huge. So I think price action will definitely drive the curiosity of the people who are sitting on the fringes. That's where I think the people would understand that what actually this Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency is. So I think first the exposure will always be the curiosity around the price, and then maybe people will try to find the fundamentals. Okay, why the price is there, and whatever the price is there, like why people are like super interested into buying Bitcoin versus my favorite Apple stocks or Microsoft stocks, right?
Hmm.
So I think that will make the that will extend the fabric of this new thing called Bitcoin to the masses. And once they understand, once Bitcoin touches the masses, it will definitely intrigue, let's say, a certain percentage of people, and then the slow snowflake will take the avalanche kind of shape. People would love to research, people love to understand, then more and more people try to understand the foundational stuff, and once you go in their rabbit hole, then there is no point coming back up. So generally they get web3 red pilled.
Yeah.
So I feel that it is a good top of the funnel
Hmm.
marketing for
Yeah.
actually web3 builders and new startup folks who's going to join us in the next 2 to 3 years, or maybe in 4 years, or the time to come.
Right. Yeah, this is like a very nice way of putting it. I think recently I had also written a blog about just what Bitcoin ETF is and why is there a hullabaloo about it. But the way you succinctly put it, that this is like a good way to fill up the top of the funnel and it'll help with
Absolutely.
right? It'll help with adoption, right? This is a very good perspective, very refreshing because everybody is talking about wealth, money, and decentralization and not owning your Bitcoin. But this is a new perspective to have that this is gonna just push more people into the space in one way or the other, and it's thereby legitimizing it even further.
Yeah, yeah. I think financialized aspects is always connected with Bitcoin, but what it is going to impact, the impact of this thing is going to
Hmm.
be truly fundamentally, it's going to change a lot of people's career and the graphs. I mean, there are more smart people who can just understand what Bitcoin's 9 pages white paper actually is capable of. So I think everybody would love to understand what actually is the underlying technology, and I think that's where they will definitely be interested in what they can do with this kind of a technology.
That is going to be the tipping point. This is a very interesting perspective, Vikas. I'm really grateful that you put it that way, and it's very refreshing as well. So everybody seems to be, everybody seems to have a pretty positive outlook on this Bitcoin ETF. Obviously, everything comes with its pros and cons, and we don't have to get into that right now. But looking at this as something that will help in greater adoption is something that I can buy immediately. So this is wonderful to get and hear from you as a perspective. Now, you are also an avid reader, and I know that because we've spoken about the wonderful books that you're reading. And
Yeah.
I would love to hear from you about if you could recommend perhaps to our listeners that some books that you find really valuable, and not just in the Web3 space as an entrepreneur, because I think ultimately all entrepreneurs are alike, be it Web2, Web3. You're making a business, you need to make money to keep the lights on, and it needs to solve a problem. So if you had to recommend some books to some founders or folks listening to this podcast, which books would those be? Like, your top three picks, perhaps.
Sure, I think very few people talk about books, so I would love
Hmm.
to definitely give my recommendation.
Yeah.
So generally, I segregate whenever I pick a book. First of all, I don't read fiction, so I only go for the books like from the people who have actually built businesses or have played an active role into building
Right.
those businesses. So, or people who are curious enough to see how actually industry have taken shape. So it requires grit, it requires perseverance, passion, selling, understanding the psychology of the users.
Hmm.
So if I have to go for the top three, the first one would be Hooked by Nirayal.
Right.
And
That's a wonderful book. We talked about marketing,
yes,
and I think that sets the foundation, right?
that actually would love to. That book is not a book; it's a workbook.
Yeah,
People
it
should
is.
definitely try to. Yeah, people should try to actively use everything that they have shared in every 2 to 3 pages.
Yeah.
I couldn't finish that book in like 3 months because it was so brain wrenching that people cannot. I mean, I cannot move forward unless I will not be having at least 2, 3 ideas or 5 ideas around my product when I'm reading that book. So
Yeah.
that's one.
It's very intense.
So
Yeah.
yes, yes, it will add dimension to the founders thinking that
Yeah.
okay, this is how big farm companies are thinking, and
Yeah.
why can't they have this kind of virality quotient or kind of the way they want to look at their product? Why can't they create a system that the audience look at their product from that perspective? Okay, so that's
Hmm.
one. Second would be Grit by Angela Duckworth. It's forwarded by I mean, Angela Duckworth talk about what actually sets the successful people apart from the unsuccessful people. It's not the money, it's not the background, it's not the connection, it's not the luck. It's most about the perseverance. That's why the book is called Grit. Uh, and I generally say one thing that stronger the whys, easier the hows. So I think that book sits at the cross section of these two things. If you
Hmm.
have your why really, really strong, you will always find a way to actually circumvent a situation. And
Yeah.
why people who have been so Netflix is an example. I mean, all the companies, all the big companies will go through the near death experience. They will always come back stronger. The reason to do so because the founder or the team or somehow the advisors, they always gave them the understanding of how they need to persevere just by changing this or that. So second was grit. Second would be grit. Third, I'm reading one right now, but I think I can recommend that. That is one is called the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday is for the people. The founders are very much small community. I would say scarcest commodity is founders. So they need to preserve their mind, their brain really really well. They cannot pollute their brain. So I think Stoicism will help them to become like really steady brain. So I think the Daily Stoics by Ryan Holiday would be my third thing where this will be the foundation because brain is the foundation of everything. So it will help you to think in the long term rather than short term, and
Right.
that too with the stoicism. So yeah, these three.
These are wonderful recommendations. I think stoicism is so interesting when you start getting into it, and if somebody is really going to get into the recommendations that Vikas has pushed through, I would add another recommendation. If you are new to stoicism, then read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I think it's a great starting point for
Yes.
anybody who wants to just learn a little more about these ideas associated with stoicism, and it can be. I think it can be especially good for entrepreneurs who see too many ups and downs in any given day. And
Yes.
it can perhaps pave a path for you to have a better mindset. So these are wonderful recommendations, great, and all three are very wonderful recommendations. And I would highly recommend that our listeners go ahead and read these books. I have read all three, and I think. They only add as to as Vikas mentioned, they only add to another dimension in which you are thinking, and they'll give you ideas. And Hooked, especially, I think Hooked is something that I had made mandatory reading for my entire marketing team. And we did like exercises around it, that using the Hooked model, let's see how this kind of will work. And that gave us great success. It can seem very daunting to read a book to come prepared for a meeting like that, but I do truly believe that it should be mandatory reading for anybody who wants to make a career in marketing, especially in this day and age.
Yep.
So, Vikas, I am almost out of time. Actually, we are exceeding the time limit that we had set for ourselves. I would like to wrap this up now, but not before I ask you one question that I ask everybody who comes on the show. You've been on the other side of this particular rabbit hole where you were in Web 2 and you did not know what blockchain was, leave alone, crypto or Web 3. If somebody is perhaps struggling like you are and they are still trying to understand whether Web3 is for them, what would be your advice for them to start living on blockchain?
So how should I make it easy for them to start understanding it and then get into it?
Yeah, to get into it and also to perhaps persevere, because I think that is also important.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Get
Of
and how
course,
to
of course.
persevere. Everybody talks about how to get in this space because I think that is still a straightforward answer. But from you, I would like to understand what would be your advice for these guys to persevere and keep building?
So I think now that so first of all, there are too many tools today. People need not to like persevere in the way we have to persevere. So I think what we learned in the first 6 to 9 months in the blockchain today, that can be learned within like a week today. So I
Yeah.
think first of all, you are at the benefit of too much information today, and
Mm,
which is much more polished, much more amazing. So information is there. Second, choose the right folks to be around with, because that's what going to be the very important difference when you start your journey. If you are in web 2, try to find a community, and there are too many communities now, and that too, I want to say that it is again differentiated. So earlier in 2016, 17, 18, getting 50 people in a event was like a heck of a thing for a web 3 or or like a blockchain thing. Today you can find a community just like 100, not 100, but let's say within a kilometer or two, that somebody must be doing a web3 event. So try to join them. That will set you apart for the that will set the foundation. And then
mm.
from there you have to take the conversation forward as per the interest, because you have a certain interest, and that interest today, because web3 today is having same kind of offerings as job opportunity, I would say, which a web2 company has. We have marketing, sales, BD, UI, UX, everything in the web3 ecosystem today. It's not just that I mean, you can take a shift, still have a better career, and still living on the blockchain kind of thing. You can truly do that. So I think that's how you should like architect your journey, and be available on Discord and Telegram, because that's where the community thrives. So I think
Right.
you can
That
be
is where all
offline
the
as well as
action is
online.
happening. Yeah.
Sorry.
I said that is where all the action is happening. So you might as well be there.
Yes,
Yeah. So in
yes.
other
So I
way,
think that's the that would be the steps, I think. Yeah.
thank you so much, Vikas, for taking out the time for this wonderful conversation. I have always been a believer in earlier Belief Club and now NFTFN, and your team. I think you're solid founders who are trying to make sure that your platform A reaches a lot of people, and B, you survive no matter where the cycle is, so that you can keep creating better solutions, which is absolutely wonderful. So thank you once again for making the time to speak to me today. Anything you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, first of all, thank you. The structure is very freewheeling, so I think I was able to speak my mind. So there is
Yeah.
no there is nothing that I would say that it is pre-processed. It was all impromptu, but I think it came from the deepest learning and struggles and hurdles. But still, I think the shiny part of Web3 is that the promise it provides to
Yeah,
actually disrupt and create things by yourself. I mean, which is not possible in the Web 2.0. You
absolutely.
cannot create a leverage trading platform
Mm.
in Web 2.0. You will die just buying the licenses there,
Right,
right? So
exactly. Yeah, you just get stuck
so
in the bureaucracy. Yeah.
yeah. So if I put things perspective for your listeners, is that I'm trying to create a NYSE or NSC kind of platform
Mm.
right out of my office. That's the power of Web3. I mean, otherwise this thing is just not available anywhere in the world, anywhere in the technology realm. So that's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the power that decentralized technology provides each of us to be able to create these amazing tools, platforms, solutions. The world's your oyster, pretty much, and you can go after any problem in a steadfast manner and really be able to solve it, as against doing it in Web 2. So, no better way to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much, Vikas, once again for taking out the time to speak to me.
Thank you. Thank you.